another episode of Men at Large. We're here with author DWIGHT PETTIT joining us to talk about his book, Under Color of Law, and having some hopefully spirited debate on some great, wonderful topics. I'm Chris DeBoard.
I'm LJ Moses. Alfonso Naya.
And John Carrington.
Wonderful. Well, I know one issue that we all can probably relate to because we've been hearing so much about it is the local police brutality. And with it being almost a year and a half, I believe now, from the Freddie Gray case. Seeing that, how that escalated, being that it's our case close to home, John, what would be your opinion on that from your standpoint?
Well, personally, I consider police brutality when I'm stopped for speeding and I'm handed a ticket. I take it very personal. I was riding down the beltway and an officer pulled me over. No brutality, just said, your license plate lights are out. My license plate lights? So I got those repaired on a repair ticket. Then 2 weeks later, right down the road, officer pulled me over again. This time he said there was a flashing light in the right-hand lane. I was a police officer. You were supposed to either slow down or move over into the next lane. I said, oh, officer, I'm sorry. He said, well, this is just a warning. I said, okay. So I avoided going on the beltway for about a month because I said every time I go on the beltway, I get pulled over. Now, to me, that was police brutality. But then again, that's a very personal level of antagonism that I received from the police officers who encountered me. And I guess, really, from my perspective, just being stopped.
That would make sense. Now, I know, Dwight, you've had your run-ins with the law over the years, and obviously been on both sides of the bench to help protect and then, protect others as well. Now, what would be your biggest, view and issue with police brutality in Baltimore specifically, just because this has been with the Freddie Gray case and a lot of the media coverage has been having? What would be your view on that?
Well, I think that police brutality has existed forever.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a correct statement. What we're seeing now is the result of technology, which is giving us an insight into what has been occurring on a daily basis for years. I know all the cases I've tried and so forth, nobody believed that those things were actually happening, and black Americans were being singled out to be brutalized and whatever. Or, as John is talking about, to be profiled. I handled one of the first profile cases in the book in the state of Maryland back in the 70s that I won in terms of the Court of Appeals and what have you. And that was on, not Baltimore City, but that was just on the New York Baltimore corridor, where they were just, the ACLU later came in and showed statistically that they were stopping blacks at record numbers when the numbers in terms of crimes committed by blacks or whites was no big distinction. But the stopping ratio was off the charts. And you look like you're going to ready to say something else?
Yes. I was going to ask you, do you think that police officers use deadly force on suspects too quickly these days?
Oh, it's no question about it. Without probable cause. And the defense, I've always heard, and I guess I've tried over 25, 30, and handled over 100 police brutality cases. And I've got some big verdicts. I've lost a lot because it's a very difficult area to litigate. But the standard defense is, I thought my life was in jeopardy. I thought I was starting reaching for a weapon because I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for physical injury. And believe it or not, no matter how ridiculous the facts show that statement to be, jurors and judges buy it. And we protect our police because we want to believe in the credibility and so forth that the police are not going to just specifically do wrong to us because of the color of our skin. And like what John was saying, and LJ, and you might not come within this classification, Chris, but all of us here, I believe there's no black man in America that hasn't had some negative conflict with the police, and especially driving while black. I know I've had my instances and still do. At my ripe age of 71 years old, I was just pulled over a few times within the last 6 months. Red light, allegedly, light out or something.
Passing too close to flashing lights that were on the side of the road taking care of police business.
where they could have said, sir, your light's out, but I could, give me your license, give me your registration,
Repair ticket.
where you going, why you in this neighborhood. I mean, that's the consequence of, and I've had the more lethal stops, or potentially lethal. Where once I was pulled over, not pulled over, I was sitting waiting for my wife to come out of a hotel. We were at a conference, and all of a sudden I saw all these police cars pulling around, and all of a sudden a shotgun came through my window and was placed to my head. And, you know, we always say to our young people, cooperate and do what the police tell you to do. Now, at this point in time, I'll be quite candid with you all. I was wearing, it's in the book, I was wearing a big hat with a broke down rim and a leather coat, had the big bush, the goatee, what have you, and was sitting, unbeknown to me, outside of a bank that had been robbed about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But the interesting part about it, why I could relate to it and may not have been here today, because the officer said to me, he said, are you carrying a gun? And I had a gun permit. And I said, yes, officer, but I knew I was going in D.C., the gun permit was from Maryland, so I had taken the gun off and locked it in the glove compartment, taken the bullets out. He says, get it. And for the first time, I was arrogant with the police, and I said, you gotta be out your mind. You get it. That's in the glove compartment.
Okay.
And that was real.
I think
That was
the
rich.
smartest choice, given some of the current events that just recently happened, where the young man explained that he had a gun permit and he still was shot and killed while his family was in the car. You know, some will argue that the police weren't created to protect the rights of African Americans. Years and years ago, when the police force had no color, and they were patrolling, I want to say, urban areas. Again, a spike in arrests in the African American culture. Also, when you see groups or subgroups like the Black Panther Party, who was targeted by police, and also, you know, even when it came to Dr. Martin Luther King, someone who we all we love and cherish his work. At one point in time, he was public enemy #1 for his courageous work. What are your perspective or take about that statement that the police may not have been created with the best intentions for African Americans?
Well, you're so correct. You got to remember the whole basis. We weren't people; we were property. And when you look at the origins of the police are basically, in a capitalistic society, are to protect property and to protect the upper classes, or the haves versus the have-nots. That also moves across racial lines in terms of poor people and what have you. So you got to look at what the purpose of police departments originally was. So, and then during slavery and so forth, the police departments were in fact developed to track us and find us and bring us back to the massa and to face the persecution for having been a runaway slave. And so historically, police departments were not put here to protect and to serve the African American community. The police were put in. This is why that mentality exists of an occupation force, because the police forces now are recruited from all rural different areas, and so when they come into especially the urban area, in many cases not just hostile, but they're afraid, they're fearful, they're apprehensive, and they're acting in an adversary way rather than in an accommodating and serving way.
Definitely some great points and sparking debate here, but at this point we do have to take a break, so our panel here, we're going to catch up on some stuff and maybe get some more questions lined up. Stay tuned for more Men at Large.
The Tuskegee Airmen were an all-black fighter squadron, the 332nd Fighter Group actually, who did bomber escort, which meant they put their life at jeopardy to make sure that the B-52 bombers got home safe.
It offered me the opportunity to be a pilot. You know, I like to look back. When I was a young man, I looked back and I thought about the Buffalo Soldiers, and I tried to amplify the things that they have done, and hopefully that the young persons that are coming behind now will try to amplify the things that I've accomplished.
Well, it's important for the younger generation to know, first of all, the history of the past, but mainly that in order to overcome obstacles, you have to be excellent. The Tuskegee Airmen stands for excellence. We were people who were in college, we were leaders of our group, we were athletes, we were valedictorians.
And it's men like this that help to provide the freedoms that we enjoy and pave the way for specifically African American men to do their part in the war effort, not just World War II, but all the major war efforts that America has been involved in. And I just have the opportunity now on this to say thank you. Thank you for your service, sir, and your devotion to your country. And
for 92 years, and I hope 92 more.
92 years, that's what I'm saying. He's young, looks good, too strong. Hurting my hand, that's a whole nother conversation.
It's an honor to be a part of this experience and this journey. To be able to stand and talk to living history it's really amazing.
And I'm a little overwhelmed because the president's about to watch our movie.
He recognizes the heritage that we bring to invite us here and to see this wonderful movie, this exciting movie, is really top-notch. You will be sitting in your seat wondering what's going to happen next. You'll enjoy it.
We hope you enjoy yourselves. We're going to be bringing in popcorn for everybody who didn't get popcorn. God bless you. God bless the United States.
Welcome back to Men at Large. We're here with author A. Dwight Pettit talking about his book, Under the Color of Law, as well as some opinions on some police brutality questions we're bringing up now. Alfonso had mentioned the role of police in today's community, not necessarily looking out for the best interests of the public, specifically the black community. With New York's stop and frisk law, do you see that having an impact more locally, specifically on Baltimore City and even Washington, D.C., and impacting the black community that way?
Well, it had a direct impact because that was the birthplace of the policy put in by then Mayor O'Malley in terms of zero tolerance. That's exactly what that was. When challenged by the ACLU, it was declared to be unconstitutional, just like the federal court in the jurisdiction for New York declared that to be stop and frisk to be unconstitutional. And so when the current presidential candidate on the Republican side talks about stop and frisk, he's talking about trying to reimpose that which has already been declared unconstitutional and particularly has been exercised against the African American community.
No, that's a great point, and definitely it's unfortunate that something like that, obviously with the best intentions of stop and frisk to try and make sure we do have a safer community, it does unfortunately target the black community.
See, the distinction is, Chris, we have to be very careful with the high crime rate and what have you. We have to be very careful not to give up our basic constitutional rights in the trade-off for the suppression of crime. It's a very delicate balance. Everybody wants to fight crime. Everybody wants to get the bad guys, but we can't give up our constitutional rights in terms of surveillance, privacy, Fourth Amendment search and seizure, and et cetera, et cetera. We have to be very, very, very determined to preserve our rights at the same time to come up with solutions in terms of the crime situation in this nation.
There has to be a model that will work. There has to be something that will work. The NRA suggests that everybody ought to be their own first line of defense when it comes to your public safety. In other words, this Second Amendment, you have the right to own something to protect yourself with. And then there are others who say if we all meet each criminal with kumbaya and give them $35,000 of spending money, we don't have to put them in jail at a cost of $35,000 in spending money. So what is the ideal model somewhere between the two extremes of everybody being armed and everybody else singing kumbaya and just paying criminals not to be criminals?
I think it's very difficult just because there's really no change that we can make immediately, that this has to be something to be progressive, and it would definitely take an effort from everyone and not just one group or one political party to have some sort of an impact on the black community, the white community, but just community as a whole. And I think while we, as a Caucasian young male, I definitely can't speak on, some impact that, my peers have had throughout their upbringing. But at the same time, I definitely see that this can't be a white issue. It has to be an everyone issue for any changes to happen.
And let's look at the causations too. We can talk about the social conditions of this nation that has given rise to what we're seeing in the nation. These drugs just didn't happen. Somebody brought them in here. The guns just didn't happen. Somebody brought them here. I remember back in, I think it was Reagan, I was in the Nixon administration out of law school, but I think it was Reagan, they said, what are you going to do about the quote-unquote the Negro problem? Well, you remember that's when it came out in terms of the Contras and so forth, that they were flooding the neighborhoods with dope and weapons and so forth. Well, all this has in fact continued. And we have to look at not only that, but what has happened in terms of jobs and education opportunities and things which have fueled the poverty and the cycle of violence which is connected with poverty. Now those things won't be cured overnight, but they have to be recognized. And Freddie Gray was the perfect example of this in Baltimore City. What have we done in terms of schools, education, jobs, and opportunity that's going to say to the young man, you do have a chance here rather than just being on the corner selling dope, which is going to lead to your early demise or incarceration, one or the other anyway.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie Gray failed in school. He was not making the grade in school.
And lead poisoning effect.
He was a drug dealer. He was a drug addict. And he had a history of slip and fall lawsuits.
Right.
And they put him in the back of a paddy wagon, unsecured. Something happened between him going in and ending up in the hospital.
I think the biggest issue that one could bring up is that there's no one policing the police. When we talk about community-based, a lot of the police officers in urban areas aren't from urban areas. They have no general understanding of what these young men are faced with or going through. So you might see an individual like a Freddie Gray and feel that he's less than and say, you know what, I don't have the security. It doesn't matter what happens from this point to that point, this corner to that corner, if he falls and breaks his neck, it doesn't matter. I think the accountability level within our law enforcement, it just doesn't exist because we're looking at, again, what we can consider generational curses. You have people who are in power, who family was in power, who have been raised a certain way, who have been taught a certain way. What I've learned is you can't change a man's heart. And if you can't change his heart, you can't change his mind. And you see it far too often. Even with African-American police officers, you see brutality within
the systemic, it's not individual.
The sins of our fathers have definitely set us up. Stay tuned for more Men at Large. welcome back to Men at Large. We're here with author A. Dwight Pettit. LJ, you said you had something you wanted to say at the end of that break?
Absolutely. So my question is, why do black on black shootings, why aren't they as highly protested as police shootings are?
Well, I'd like to tackle that if I may, LJ. I think the reason is, as horrible as the crime rate is in the inner city between young blacks and black on black crime that you were talking about, that's something that is subject to police jurisdiction and prosecution and justice. Police officers who are shooting and killing people are sanctioned by law, going back to acting under color of law, don't face a sanction. And they are public officials that are sworn to protect and not to kill without probable cause, without reason. And so that's the distinction, that's the horror thing of the police brutality, because they do that and there is no sanction. Of all the cases that I've handled a case with Johnny Cochran, we've taken the deposition of a young police officers, and we found out that all the police officers that were involved in the shooting, the Harvard case, where the young man was putting on the handcuffs, this was some years ago, and they shot him in the back of the head while they were handcuffing him. And all of them had been promoted. They just weren't on the police force, they were now lieutenants and captains. So it was a badge of courage rather than something that there was any sanction to face. And so we know there's no criminal sanction with the caps and so forth that protect the jurisdiction, so no monetary sanctions, and in fact, it's almost promoted. And that's what disturbs the public. That there's killings and breaches of law which are there's no penalty.
So are you saying that it's okay for blacks to kill blacks as compared
No,
to?
I'm not saying okay. Your question was why is the degree of
Perception, maybe?
perception and the degree of hysteria so high in one situation versus another.
So are you saying it's easier to perceive black on black?
I like to use sports analogies. When I get in complicated situations like this, I like to use sports analogies. If the Baltimore Ravens have a really good defense, there's a good chance that the other team isn't going to try to do things that the defense is really good at. If I knew that everybody in my neighborhood was armed, there's a good chance I'm not going to take my gun out on the street and challenge anyone, because I know there's repercussions. I think crimes of theft and killing are crimes of opportunity. If you think you can do it and get away with it, there's a good chance you'll do it. If you think you can pass on the Ravens defense, you're going to do it until you get stopped. And what stops them? A good linebacker, a good safety, or maybe a guy who's covering that receiver who likes to hit real hard, and he knows that you're going to be intimidated as a receiver to try to catch a pass on him. In other words, you're not going to attack somebody who you think is going to attack back. And I think bullies and people who really want to do crime think they can get away with it are the ones that perpetrate some of these crimes.
To add to that, I think that we do know within the African American community there are issues, but we label it and we give it a sense of entitlement. So when you say black on black crime, I've never heard a Caucasian say white on white crime, although we know within those communities there's killings. We know that within the Latino race, they also have gang issues, but you never hear Latino on Latino or Chinese on Chinese. I think that's the issue is not that harm is not being done, because if you put any group of people around each other long enough, there will be some sort of negative outcomes, just as is positive outcomes. But I think the big issue is when we label it, we give it life.
Definitely some great points, Alfonso. Thank you for that. And thank you for watching Men at Large. We'll see you after this. would love for you guys to tune into our next episode. We'd definitely like to thank A. Dwight Pettit for joining us, the author of the book Under Color of Law. And with that, I'm Chris Ford.